In this video, we're going to be going over how to improve hip-shoulder separation in the javelin throw. Do you want to take your training to the next level? Download the Jacked Javelin mobile app, where you have access to dozens of free resources that cover topics such as nutrition, arm care, mobility, plyometrics, and most importantly, javelin technique. We also have our free community, which connects thousands of throwers from all around the world to communicate and help each other out. You will also have the option to purchase one of our training programs written directly by me with video demonstrations of each exercise telling you exactly how many sets and reps to do, as well as the option to track your metrics so you can keep track of your progress. See you on the inside. So what is hip-shoulder separation? Hip-shoulder separation is where we get into the final phase before we're about to throw, and our hips are turned forward and our shoulders are still back, okay? So our throwing arm is still back behind us. What this does is this allows us to use the kinetic chain effectively because we're getting our block foot down, we're internally rotating the back hip, the shoulders are still closed off this way. So now we have this built up tension in our hips, into our core, that goes up our core, up our chest, and then into our throwing arm and release and follow through. So if there's a break in the kinetic chain at all, that could be a super bent block leg. That could be your chest and your hips too far forward over your block leg. That could be your throwing arm being super bent. But a very, very common one is also the hip and the shoulder coming through at the same time instead of the hip first and then shoulder second, okay? So the timing of the kinetic chain in hip-shoulder separation is essential to have the most amount of power in the javelin throw. So what starts with proper hip-shoulder separation and a powerful kinetic chain is getting the back foot in a squatty back foot contact position to be in this plantar flexion position, okay? So what that means is we are having our heel off the ground and we're staying on the ball of our foot, then our back knee is bent, and then we have our foot, knee, and hip and shoulder in a straight line. So getting that back foot in proper plantar flexion is really important because if our back foot is flat on the ground and then we try to internally rotate that back knee and that back hip, look at how our foot is gonna be dragging like that. But if we start in plantar flexion, we are going to be able to easily swivel forward. So when we land on that back foot, we rotate into the block. And then when we rotate into the block smoothly, we get the hips forward and then the chest is still closed off and sideways. And that's where you get the hip-shoulder separation. So it starts with plantar flexion. Then the second step is going to be squatty back foot. Because if we are in plantar flexion, but then our back foot is fully locked out, we will hit the back foot and then drift into the block here in this neutral position where we want to be more in this power position right here where the front leg is straight and the back leg is nice and soft, because then that's how our chest will be behind the block and our back hip will be able to help lift the javelin up into the air, okay? So step one, plantar flexion, heel off the ground. Step two, squatty back foot contact. That way we can rotate directly into the block and get into power position. Because without that, we're either dragging our back foot or we're here and then we land in a neutral position and there's no power or rotation here, okay? So when we're going into that hip shoulder kinetic chain position at the final block phase, before we get there, we are going into the penultimate, which is going to launch ourselves forward. So the important part of back foot contact is right after we hit the penultimate. So we'll hit the penultimate here, land on back foot contact, and then rotate into the block. And that's where we want to keep our chest and shoulders closed off. But what's important to understand is that because of your momentum coming in through the penultimate, being on that soft back foot contact, we are going to rotate the hip about 85% of the way before the block hits the ground. So if this is 0% of the way and then this is 100% of the way, we are going to get to about here, then the block will hit the ground, and then the last 15% of the hip will snap through. Then your arm comes through and you throw, okay? So you'll be back foot contact, block, finish the hip, and then the arm will follow through there. Big thing to note before we move on is that when we are doing this, we want to make sure that our throwing side is completely passive and our blocking side is completely active. So what that means is our throwing arm is going to be completely relaxed, like the dead arm drills that we've done in our plyo ball videos. And then the back hip is super relaxed, being able to just passively swivel back and forth. So when we land back foot contact, it's a soft, quick motion there. The arm's super relaxed, but then our left side is uncoiling into the block and being nice and firm and strong with both the arm and the leg. All right, now after that explanation of what hip-shoulder separation is, here are some drills to help you improve it. So here we're gonna get kneeling with the football. So what we're doing is, you see how my upper body is closed off towards the camera here, but then my hips are actually forward because my knees are on the ground in a bilateral stance. So I'm getting closed off, and then I am going to uncoil and just have my arm come through. So my arm is the last piece of the puzzle. So hips first, then core, then chest, then arm, okay? So we're gonna be here and then follow through. So what we're gonna get into now is how to use a plyo ball and a medicine ball to work on your hip-shoulder separation. How the 5-step med ball shot put is helpful for developing hip-shoulder separation is because you are holding the medicine ball close to your body with both arms, which forces your upper body to stay closed off, and then you are only focusing on the lower half, so you're able to rotate into the throw and not worry about how far the javelin is going or throwing through the point and whatnot. And the next drill to develop hip-shoulder separation is the 3 back foot contact hop drill with a 1 kilogram plyo ball. So the reason that the 3 hops on the back foot with the plyo ball really helps develop hip-shoulder separation is because you're using the heavy weight in your hand to keep your arm back, and you're using the soft back foot contact staying on the ball of your foot to focus on being stacked and squatty on the back foot and being very quick and light and bouncy on the back foot. So when you land, you will be landing in that plantar flexion position with that squatty bent knee, and then you are very easily able to internally rotate the back hip into the block leg and then throw. So what we're doing here with the impulse drill is we are going to have Matt start with his heel off the ground in that plantar flexion position. We are going to get a little bit of weight on that back foot, okay? So that that knee is now soft and bent, okay? Now he's going to step with the block and then fire the hip forward. And then we're just going to do that 3 times. And on the third one, he's gonna try to hit this position right here with his hips forward and his arm back and then throw. All right, so now he's gonna go 1, 2, 3, there you go. So active block side, passive throwing side, okay? Relax, there you go, good. 1, 2, 3, there you go, nice. So the final drill we're going to be doing today is a hard pick. So what that means is, usually when you hear the word pick, you might think of like a warm-up throw where you're just tossing it out 5-10 yards in front of you, getting it to stick in the ground, right? So now we're doing the same thing, but what we're doing is we're continuing to work on that active block side, passive throwing side. So we're staying super relaxed with the back hip into the throw and staying super relaxed with the arm. Matt's gonna take his first 2 steps, which are gonna be a crossover. Those are gonna be walking, and then he's going to be doing a normal penultimate, getting forward, but instead of doing a 5-step type of throw where we're throwing it at a normal competition angle, he's going to be throwing it low at the ground and getting a pick. This allows the body to feel that linear energy and dropping the back foot into the block foot without worrying about throwing at a higher angle. Because what happens is, a lot of times when kids worry about throwing far and throwing high like a competition, they start to lose the lower body energy going forward, and it starts to kind of lean back like this. We want to focus on staying nice and tall, getting the back hip into the front side, and getting our energy through the end of the runway and throw. Good, one more. Good. Beautiful. Thanks for tuning into this video. I hope you learned something, and be sure to check out our video where we go over the physical preparation aspect of how to improve hip-shoulder separation.